All right. Hello. Welcome to Code Nation Fellowships, Rock, Paper, Scissors, Unit 2, Lesson 3. My name is Jessica, and I'm going to be taking you through these slides. So first and foremost, don't forget to submit the do now. Let your program manager or volunteers know if you have any questions about it. And we're going to move on from there. So, as I said, this is Unit 2, Session 3 of the Rock, Paper, Scissors project. The objective for you is to write a compound conditional statement using and or operators. The vocabulary is compound conditional, and, or, and operators. And finally, in your project, you will compare the user choice and the computer choice and display the resulting winner. So, compound conditionals. We can make compound conditionals which check for more than one condition. So in the previous lesson, you learned about conditionals. You can actually make them compound, so you can have them have multiple parts. Compound conditionals use Boolean operators. A Boolean is a data type in JavaScript which represents only true or false. These operators are the AND operator, the OR operator, and the NOT operator. So this is what each operator looks like, and, the two lines, and an exclamation point. So I'm going to go ahead and take you through some examples. So here's an example of us using the AND operator. So in a conditional statement. So if blue equals blue and red equals green, yell true, else yell false. So in this conditional, this is an and statement. So both of these pieces of the compound have to be correct in order for the code to yell true. But blue equals blue, that is true, but red does not equal green. So actually in this scenario, the yell false is what's going to run. Because since one of these parts is false, the whole statement becomes false. So as I just said, the AND operator only runs true or only returns true when both of its operands are true. So for example, here's another one. 2 plus 2 equals 3 and 1 plus 1 equals 2. So 2 plus 2 equals 3 is false. And even though 1 plus 1 equals 2 is true, the whole statement becomes false just because of the first part. So that's how the AND operator works. Both of the pieces have to be true in order for it to run. So the OR operator, these like two vertical lines that represent OR, returns true when either or both of the operands are true. So for example, 2 plus 2 equals 3 or 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 2 equals 3 is false, but 1 plus 1 equals 2 is true. And since this is an OR statement, only one of those has to be true for the entire statement to be true. So this equates to true. It is true. So the not operator, which is the exclamation point, returns true when the operand is false and vice versa. So you can think of the not operator as like the opposite of whatever is in the parentheses. So for example, not 2 plus 2 equals 3. So 2 plus 2 does not equal 3, but since you put a not in front of it, it's true. So again, like if whatever's in here is false, as long as there's a not in front of it, it's going to be true, and vice versa, right? So yeah, that's how that works. So most conditions in an if-else conditional statement will include operators. Here are some examples of what those look like in JavaScript versus what they look like in your math class. I'm sure you're familiar with those. So less than or greater than, they're the same from your math class. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, pretty similar, right? But in JavaScript, you're going to put like the less than or greater first and then the equals. Equal to in JavaScript is 3 equal signs. So it's equals, equals, equals. In math, it's just like, 1, you're used to that. And then the not equal to, which you've probably used, like, especially maybe in geometry. The not equal to is going to be exclamation point and then equals, equals. Cool. So let's do some questions. So take a moment to pause the video and think about this. So if green equals green and pink equals pink, first of all, is that true? And then second, which of these lines of code do you think will run? Okay, so hopefully you paused and you thought about it. So green does equal green, and pink does equal pink. Both of those are true. So this whole statement is true. And the message correct is what is going to run because it's true. If one of those had been false, and only one of those has to be false, then the whole thing becomes false and it would be wrong. That would pop up. All right, let's try another one. Go ahead and pause and think about this. Let number equal 7 if number is less than or equal to 8 and number is greater than or equal to 6. First of all, is that true? And then second, which of these will run? Hopefully you thought about it. So number equals 7. 7, the number, is less than or equal to 8. That's true. And 7 is greater than or equal to 6. That's also true. So since both of those are true, the just right answer is what is going to run. So that's another and example for you. Okay, here's an or example. So let number equal 7 if number equals 8 or number is less than 10. Is all of that true? And then which of these do you think will run? Take a moment to think about it. Hopefully you thought about it. So 7 does not equal 8. So this first part is not true. It's false. But 7 is less than 10. And because this is an or statement, only one of these has to be true. So since one of them is true, this part is correct, it's true. The yup part is what is, or yep part is what is going to run. That's the line of code that will run. So that is true. That's how the or statement works. By the way, also, if both of these were true, it would run as well. So with the or statement, they can both be true, or at least one of them has to be true for it to run. Okay, so now take a moment to pause the video again and think about how does this apply to your rock, paper, scissors project, and how would you use this chart to help you with your project? Take like 2 minutes to brainstorm that and then come back to the video. Hopefully you have thought about that. So yeah, so in your rock, paper, scissors project, you have the user choosing rock, paper, or scissors, and then you have the computer generating a random choice of rock, paper, or scissors, right? So think about all of the combinations of possibilities that can happen, right? You have a lot of possible outcomes, which is where this table comes into play, right? The user has 3 choices and the computer has 3 choices to make. When the user chooses scissors and the computer chooses rock, what is going to happen? You want the screen to say computer wins, right? That's what you want the bottom of the page to say. So that's like a combination that you will have to consider. Then what if the user chooses scissors and the computer chooses paper, right? Now the user wins. So now that's a different scenario. Or what if the user chooses scissors and the computer chooses scissors? Now it's a tie or no one wins. So there's all these different scenarios. And in these scenarios, first of all, you're gonna want to like figure out what are all the scenarios that could happen, right? And then second is how will you use compound conditionals to make sure that the computer can read, like who is the winner? Like, how are you going to determine the winner? How are you going to determine what happens based on the choices that each player makes? So like if the user chooses scissors and the computer chooses rock, what's going to happen, right? It already sounds like a conditional statement when you just say it in plain English, right? So I highly recommend that you complete this chart through your brainstorm before you write the actual code for this, because if you just like go straight to the code, you're not going to have like all the possibilities mapped out yet, and it's just going to be more difficult. If you map out all the possibilities first and what the combinations are going to look like, it's going to be a lot easier to write the code. So definitely create, a chart on your computer, on paper, something like this. It's really going to help you with that last part of the project. But before we get into all that, let's do a quick example together of how we can use this like compound conditional situation. So here's like a login page, CodeNation login portal. We're gonna just focus on this first box for this like guided practice. So here are the directions. Write a compound conditional statement that will print access granted in the div with a class of result if the correct password and the correct username or email are entered. Print access denied to that same div if the combination is not correct. So the div that they're referring to is over here in line 14, the results. So basically, like when the user types in some username or email and some password and they click login, we want the result to pop up underneath. So it's going to say either access granted or access denied if they type in like the right username versus the wrong username or password. And if we look at the JavaScript, quite a lot has already like been done for us. So there are 3 variables here, and they've already assigned like what the correct username and password is. So the username is CodeNation, the email is codenation@gmail.com, and the password is 1234. They've also already written an event handler for us, which is this part here. So when the user clicks login, that's this login button. That's where we're going to write the conditional. So we need to write the rest of it underneath here. And they've also already stored the values of the username input and the password input into these variables, which is important because we need to grab those inputs and then use the if statement to determine if the username and password are correct or not. So let's go ahead and get started. So all if statements start like this. So we're going to start with if parentheses, curly open, curly close, curly bracket. All right, so if oops, no, inside the parentheses, thank you. Okay, if username input equals 3 times JavaScript, CodeNation, and what's the second part? The password, right? So password input equals what's the password? 1 2 3 4 parentheses. All right, I'm gonna pause there. So if username input, where the heck did I get that from? I got that from here. So username input is the variable that is storing the value of whatever the user types in this username box, right? So we want the value of that. So if that equals CodeNation, meaning if they type CodeNation in there, And the password input, which comes from this variable here, if the password input is 1234, so if they type Conation and they type 1234, then what do we want to happen? We want the result div to print access granted. So I'm going to use jQuery for that. That's going to go in the curly brackets. So $.result, that's the result div. Then I'm going to do .text because I want text to appear. And I'm going to say access granted semicolon. So that's the first part, but I'm not done. So the other part is like, what if, they type the wrong stuff? So else, curly brackets, and inside of the curly bracket, I'm going to make my life easier. And I recommend you do a lot of this too. Copy paste. I don't know why it does that. Anyways. Okay, so copy paste, but instead of access granted, this situation, we want it to say access denied. So, okay, so now if the username input is Codenation and the username's, the password, sorry, if the user's input for username is Codenation and their password input is 1234, then it's going to say access granted down here. If not, so if they type some other stuff, then it's going to say access denied. So let's try it. Codenation 1234, it should say access granted. Now if I type other incorrect stuff, access denied, more incorrect stuff, access denied. Perfect. But we're not done. Because they actually want us to have the username or the email entered for it to be correct. So we want it to also be that, like, if the user puts in codenation@gmail.com, it's correct as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add to this conditional. I'm going to put another set of parentheses here, and I'm going to say if username input equals codenation or username input equals codenation@gmail.com, close parentheses, and password input equals 1234, then do access granted. And if not, else do access denied. So what I did here was I added another set of parentheses because, like, think of like PEMDAS in math, or when you use parentheses to like group part of the equation, right, or part of the expression. It's kind of similar to like this part in JavaScript. I want the like test to run this first. So if username input is Codenation or it's Codenation Gmail, if one of those, if the user does one of those and the password input is 1234, then it's access granted, right? So also notice that I put username input equals Codenation or username input equals codenation@gmail.com. So if you do this, like if you do, like, let's say I just deleted this, and this is like a common mistake. If you do like, if username input equals codenation or codenation@gmail.com, it's not going to work. You have to say username input again, like username input equals again. So don't forget that. That's an easy way to trip up. But all right, so let's test this and make sure it works. So Codenation 1234, that should work, and it does. Codenation@gmail and 1234, this should also work, and it does. If I type in the wrong password, it should say denied. If I type in the wrong username, it should say denied. So perfect. So this is an example of a compound conditional. And it's probably how a lot of websites determine correct passwords or correct information that you have to type in. So it's pretty cool that you're learning how to do that. Definitely use this to help you with the independent practice. I'll read the directions. So what if a user has forgotten their login info? In the second login box, write a compound conditional statement that will print access granted in the div with a class of result 2 if the user puts a graduation year that is greater than 2020 and the correct company name for your fellowship program. Make sure to declare new variables to save the inputs. Also, make sure to set the fellowship company name value variable to your own fellowship company within the conditional. Print access denied in the same div if the combination is incorrect. So go ahead and give that a shot. You should be in pretty good shape, especially with this kind of starter here. If you're up for it and you have time, definitely try the spicy challenge. That's a fun one. Um, and yeah, that'll put you in good shape to continue working on your project. And this is the kind of like your last go at it, right? It's your last session. So you should give yourself an hour to work on it. And these are the last things that your project will need. So you need to write a conditional statement, which, given the number range of random number, assigns rock, paper, or scissors to the variable that holds the computer choice. You'll want to display the computer choice to the screen. You'll want to write a statement that compares the user choice to the computer choice to determine the winner of the game. You're going to want to display the winner to the screen, and then finally clear the input value once a result is displayed. So just a few steps left. You're definitely going to need compound conditionals to do a couple of these, right? So take your time. Definitely use the chart in the earlier slide. Brainstorm, and if you do get everything done and you're up for a challenge, there are some extensions, just like stuff to make your page look really awesome. So definitely look into that. Of course, if you get stuck, check your reference table first, look up on Google, ask a friend, and then if all of those fail, definitely reach out to your program manager, your volunteers, your teachers for help. That's pretty much it. Thank you for being with me. I hope that this was helpful for you to learn about compound conditionals and finish up your rock, paper, scissors project. And good luck. Yeah, thank you.